Can you retire this year? This year, I guess. Can you retire this year still?
Well,
Maybe the
it
question.
depends on the way the wind is blowing, the amount of tariffs we're discussing, how beautiful my hair is today.
Wow.
We don't really know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen.
Sure
I mean,
don't.
what I would say, but it's interesting. Regardless of what happens with the current POTUS and things like that, there's going to be ups and downs for the next 25, 30, 40, 50 years, however long we're left on this planet. And my guess is most people can still retire when they want, if they plan right.
And that's what you're here to help us figure out, Mr. Financial Advisor. Jon Hicks, founder of J. Hagan Capital. I'm Heather Branch, here to ask John for his ideas about one question in particular that a lot of people might be wondering. It is estimated that over 4 million Americans are going to hit age 65 this year in 2025.
I know.
Obviously, with that comes a wave of folks that want to retire.
Of course.
So the question a lot of people have, particularly after the volatility we've seen, is can I retire, or can I still retire, as I was saying, this year? What, and you're saying 20, 30, 40, 50 years, all forever into the future, it should be regardless of what the market's doing. You should be able to retire. So the question then for you is, okay, what do we need to have figured out before we can answer that question?
That's the big one, right? So most people, they focus a lot. And essentially, there's four big things that we have to think about regardless of when we decide to retire. Because my whole feeling is that people can probably retire earlier than they think.
Okay.
Most people just focus on the money, though, and the money's important, right? We got to have a big enough pile of cash so that hopefully we can let it work for us, and we don't have to work anymore or work less or do the things that we want to do or pursue a different passion project or whatever it is. But really, there's four main things, right? So number one, and more important than the amount of money, is, are we ready to retire? What are we going to do mentally? What are we going to do emotionally? Because the two biggest things that happen to a lot of us is we lose a sense of identity. You know, if we don't have that job anymore, if you were the CPA in your firm and all of a sudden you're like, man, I'm going to hang it up one day, and now you're no longer the CPA or controller for that firm, what are you then? Are you just Dan that doesn't hang out at the water cooler anymore? Or, are you just Bob who doesn't know where his extra key is for his spare car? I mean, what are you? So the biggest thing that most people understand is, are you prepared for what you're going to do next? Have you written that chapter, or do you know what that book sounds like for the next chapter? Because a lot of people focus on retiring from this job or retiring from this occupation or retiring from this terrible company I'm working at, as opposed to thinking, what am I retiring to? What am I going to be doing? I can only play so much golf, plus my rotator cuff hurts. I don't know if I want to go through surgery, right? Yeah. So the biggest thing we have to understand, and this is, to me, in my opinion, the biggest one about can we retire this year or tomorrow, are you ready for it? What are you going to do with your time?
Are you ready for it emotionally?
Emotionally, it's an emotional thing. Like for men especially, it's a sense of identity, and then where's our social network going to be, right? Women are a little bit different. Women seem to be much more interconnected with their social lives. They can, quit working one day, and the very next day they can help out the grandkids, or they can do stuff at the church, or they can do stuff for their friends, or they can, go walking around the mall, or whatever. Women are just really a lot better at that than guys. Guys are like, I'm going to go fishing and play golf every day. And they can't. They don't want to. They're like, man, this is getting boring. Yeah. I'm terrible at golf. I realized now that I play every day instead of once a month.
Before, but
I really suck at this.
Every day.
I'm really bad. I really hate it. Mark Twain was right. Golf is just a good walk, spoiled. So, it goes that way, And then, of course, everyone that loves boats, and we get a lot of people here in Kentucky that love boats, but as soon as you're on that sucker a lot and you realize how much it costs you to maintain that boat, you're like, oh, forget this. I'm going to go sink this sucker, right? So anyway, so that's number one, emotional. Be emotionally ready. The second thing is the bucket of money, right? It is, have you saved enough? What we really need to know is, where's that income going to come from for you to stay retired? Because when it comes to retirement, anyone can retire tomorrow. The question is, do you have enough money to keep you retired, or do you have to go back and get another paycheck because we didn't save well enough, right? So, whether it's Social Security, or you have Airbnbs, or you got $2 million saved, or you're going to work a little part-time, or you're, whatever you're going to do, you have to have a big enough pile of money, right? And so some people use the 4% rule. I think that, to me, in my opinion, I don't think the 4% rule is a very good rule. But having said that, if you basically just use that, I think it's fine as a benchmark, right? So if you save $2 million and you can pull 4% off of that, that's about 80 grand a year. So 80 grand a year plus whatever you get from Social Security, let's say 30 grand, 110. Can you live off of $110,000 a year before taxes? Right? So if you can, that's important. Now, this is what most people focus on first. Emotion's really the big one. But yeah, you have to have enough money, right? Because it lets you do one of a couple things. It's like, well, maybe I'm 2 years away from that. I can put some more money away, and or I can shave off some debt, right? Or, the house will actually be paid off, so we're going to have that. But you may have extra healthcare costs, right? And if you're going to retire before age 65, there's going to be extra costs potentially until you get on to Medicare. Unless your company is awesome and they'll pay for that until you get to Medicare age. So those things factor in. So the budgeting and have you saved enough is number 2. So number 1 is emotions. Number 2 is do you have a big enough pile of cash? Number 3, right? This is a big one. Can you handle your bank accounts maybe depleting over time as opposed to growing? See, this is a big one, man. This is so. Dalbar is a company who puts out this report every year. And basically it talks about how well does the average investor do? Do they do real well? Do they beat the market? Do they fail miserably? What they found out is most people don't do very well when they have a bias. And unfortunately, if we've been working, put our money away, saving that 401k, maybe even getting a match, generally, because we're not using that money, we're seeing it increase over time. Maybe not every month if the market goes down or whatever, but over time, we generally see that big old pile of money growing and growing and growing. And something happens. It's like a switches to the wrong way, or the wires get crossed and we start to smell something burning.
Yeah.
When all of a sudden we know, hey, I'm going to have to start taking about $4,000 a month every month from this account. And you realize if we've had a couple months like we have here recently, wow, my money's not growing anymore. As a matter of fact, I've got less money. Not only the $4,000 I was pulling out, but I got some market losses in there too. And for some people who have not prepared themselves for that, or they don't have the right type of asset allocation, they don't have the right plan, that can make them do really dumb stuff. And I watch these people, I say these people, any of us, this can happen to any of us if we don't have the right plan. I watch people fail miserably. They absolutely try to time the market. They start looking for more sophisticated investment plans when, frankly, the ones that work the best are really simple. The money that you can afford to risk, take a little bit of risk with it if you're comfortable. But the money that you can't afford to lose, you shouldn't really risk much of that at all. Very, very minimal risk with the money that you need to send you income, right? Yep. People haven't prepared themselves for this. So that idea of we may start seeing depletions makes people blow up. Even if they could retire, they won't be successful at it because they're thinking in the different paradigm, right?
Okay. Yep.
That's the third one. Emotions first. Do you have a big enough pile of money? Are you prepared for what it's going to look like, which is depletion, actually using that money you've saved? And here's the fourth one. Have you talked this over with your significant other, your spouse, your wife, your husband?
Should this not be the first
See,
one?
it's the most important. I don't think it's the first one for most people. Yeah, but it is probably the most important. Okay. Because it's the one that is going to impact our emotional well-being from that day to every day, potentially going forward, or until you get a divorce, right? Or one of you die. I don't know how. I'm not saying anyone committed any, any bad things, but it happens that way, right?
Got it.
So, is your spouse on board? Because being part of that spouse being on board often comes back to number one. What are you going to be doing with your time? I watch a lot of people say, John, I'm really thinking about getting this golf club membership. We talked about it. I know it's going to cost me about 40 grand. I think that we're prepared for that. I'm ready to do that a couple days a week. And I'm like, great. And it's like, and I'm not going to take the boat out often, but I'm going to get out there and do some more of that. And I'm thinking about a pole barn, thinking about going out there. I might do some cars on the side. And what we find out, because he has not discussed this with his significant other, is that his wife has very different plans for the use of his time. For instance, Ralph, You've been telling me for 32 years that you were going to screen in that porch, and for the love of all that's holy, you're going to do it. You're going to start at the minute that you put that last time clock slot in that. You're going to do it. And it's like, oh my goodness. So it's very important whether you're like Ralph and you need to screen in the porch, or you have a lot of honey-do list items that have been neglected over the past 10, 20, 40, 50 years.
Or you've both been working, or one of you is working a lot, and your spouse wants to spend time with you.
Sure. And sometimes that's fabulous. But 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I've talked to a lot of ladies, and they're saying, listen, John, I know that we all thought it was a good idea that we got Ralph retired. He needs to not be hanging out on the couch in the den when the ladies come over to play cards. Let's just be real. I need him to do something else with his time for at least 4 to 5 hours a week. That would be great. Sure. And this is where you typically, even though it wasn't part of the plan, you see some fellas saying, well, maybe Lowe's needs some extra help. Maybe Home Depot needs a little extra help in the lawn and garden section during the summer. Yeah. You know, so you find yourself out there in an orange bib apron, watering flowers and chasing down bees.
Sounds like a good little side hustle to me.
Frankly, it sounds fabulous to me.
Very nice, I know.
Yeah, in some regards, it sounds actually perfection. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
So, but those are the big four, right? So, number one, are you emotionally ready to retire, regardless of what the markets are doing? Number two, have you saved enough money? And by the way, if the market keeps sliding, it could cause you to not be able to or not be able to retire as early. Number three, do you understand that you may see depletion in your portfolio so you don't do dumb stuff? And number four, have you spoken to your spouse really about what you're going to do with your time? Not about the money part, but what you're going to do with your time. If you get those four things in gear, guys, you can probably retire when you want. It just depends on, do you want to retire now? Do you want to wait it out? Do you really like your job? You just looking for something different to do? Those are different questions.
Understanding what you need to have checked off on the list of things to do before you hit that retire button is all part of the planning process that goes into the plans they build at J. Hagan Capital. It's just, as John, you said it several times in this conversation, it's so much bigger than just the money. It's such an emotional process, and there's a lot more that goes into it. Good news is you don't have to figure out these things by yourself. At J. Hagan Capital, they help folks retire every single day. So they are well-versed on the many different conversations that come into the fold when it comes to planning for retirement, and they can help you through the process as well. So visit us at retirementsolutionsshow.com. We also have links posted in the show notes. Just click there to start the conversation with John and his team at J. Hagan Capital. Or again, it's retirementsolutionsshow.com.